Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for this webinar on online sales strategies. This is a three-part series, and today's topic is selling services online. I'm your moderator, Renee Goodnow from the New York Small Business Development Center. Today's host is the PACE Small Business Development Center. The PACE SBDC is part of the New York SBDC's network of 22 campus-based centers and outreach offices located across New York State. The New York SBDC is a U.S. Small Business Administration resource partner. Our services are made possible by funding from the SBA, New York State, and our host campuses. Joining us to introduce today's presenter and lead things off is PACE SBDC Director Andrew Flam. Andrew, I will turn things over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Renee, and good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. Again, my name is Andrew Flam. I'm the Regional Director of the PACE University Small Business Development Center. We're based out of Lower Manhattan, and welcome you, those New York City folks, as well as folks from elsewhere in the state. Look forward to our session today with my colleague from PACE University, Julie Gauthier. So I wanted to kind of talk briefly about kind of who we are and what we do for those of you who are not working with our centers already. Our 22 centers located throughout New York State are staffed by full-time business advisors, and our advisors work on a wide range of issue areas. Based on today's topic, I wanted to make sure that we kind of reference the fact that our advisors do work a great deal kind of helping our small business clients in a array of marketing issues, whether it's access to developing a website, improving your website and web presence, social media activities, looking at e-commerce and other online advertising opportunities. You're really being able to kind of flesh out and build out your marketing and sales efforts. And we're delighted to be able to kind of dig more deeply into the weeds, I guess, today as part of a three-part series with my colleague Julie. We also, our advisors work on kind of a number of other issue areas. A key one, clearly among many of the clients we work with is access to finance, whether you're looking to secure a small business loan, be able to kind of work on developing materials that may speak to investors or other key partners you may want to bring on. So thinking about kind of what that may look like in terms of your own business development as you build and grow your business here in New York State. A couple of other key issue areas I want to touch on briefly is access to procurement opportunities. So if you're looking to do business with city and state and local and federal government sources, we can really help you access and identify key opportunities that may be a good fit for your business and how to be able to pitch and then develop your put your best foot forward in terms of being able to secure those opportunities. And then a wide range of operational issues, thinking about how to more effectively run your business, looking about how you may compare to other businesses in your industry, and thinking about access to a wide array of COVID-19 related recovery resources. Our business owner, the business owners we work with have access to tens of millions of dollars worth of support through these programs over the course of the last almost 2 years now. So if you are keen on kind of finding out more about those programs, if you haven't accessed them already, or learning about other programs that are coming out of the public and private sector, we're happy to work with you. I should remind all of you, I guess all of our services, as Renee had mentioned, are offered at no cost through the support of a wide array of government sources as well as our host institutions. And again, we're based out of PACE University in Manhattan. And the last thing I guess I'd like to touch on is today's session really is kind of a good example of us really being able to bring to you, key industry experts and kind of dig more deeply into select topics, that are really helpful in terms of improving your business operations and being able to, again, build, expand, and grow your business here in New York State. So today's offering is one of a wide array of services and webinars, training programs that our center and our colleagues from throughout the state are offering. So once I finish my remarks, which I'm just about ready to, I'll add a link in the chat where you can find out more about other upcoming sessions. We're delighted to have Julie as part of a three-part series. Today will be first, and then we'll follow in the next 2 weeks to come. So our center has other opportunities coming up as well, and then I will again provide that link for you. In addition to links to how to connect with a business advisor, again, all of our services are offered at no cost, as well as linked information about COVID-related recovery programming. So with that, that's kind of the very brief description of kind of who we are and what we do. And again, I'm delighted to introduce my colleague, Julie Gauthier, as a professor at Pace University and a colleague, and delighted to have her back to kind of walk through these key sales strategy opportunities for online sales. So, Julie, it's all yours. Thanks so much again.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Hi, folks. I'm really excited to be giving this three-part lecture series. The last time I gave this was in September of 2020, and honestly, I've had such an interesting experience since then. So there's a lot that's been added to this lecture series as well, particularly for selling services online. Today, we're going to cover selling services online. Services referring to acts that you can do, so consulting, freelancing, contracting, things that you can sell online and do all that marketing. So some of the things that I've sold online generally, it started with tutoring services. My background is as a web developer. I'm a software engineer by trade. I currently teach the web scripting class at Pace University as an adjunct professor, and I'm also a curriculum engineer at MongoDB. So some other things that I've sold online have included web development and web design services, community management services. I've sold custom cutting boards. I'm also just a crafter, and I work out of my makerspace an awful lot. So I've been selling a lot of custom gifts, including t-shirts. I've sold curriculum and learning materials online. I've sold my hackathon management services. I've sold talks and seminars, and I've sold my artwork and digital images, a lot of digital files, and also some business development consulting. My first venture into starting to sell services online, it kind of came about just as a weird idea that I had as a college student. During my senior year at Pace University, I was studying computer science, and I realized that I had a lot of knowledge about web development that not a lot of people had, and it's an extremely in-demand skill. A lot of folks, particularly folks that are interested in entrepreneurship, are interested in learning web development so that they don't have to hire a very expensive web developer. So I was able to find a lot of people just in my immediate community even that really wanted to learn web development. I decided to take that online to a website called Wyzant, which is a website for tutoring instructors and to meet up with possible students. And when I joined Wyzant, I saw that the commission fee was like truly insane. They wanted, I think, 40% for the first $1,000 that I made as a tutor on Wyzant. So I made some flyers so that I could find my own clients. I did take my first meeting on Wyzant, and so they got their commission and everything. And then I worked out a deal with my students that they would get a $10 discount, and I would still get that extra $10 if we just use PayPal instead of Wyzant in the future. So I had listed myself as a web development tutor in New York City, and somebody in China found me on Wyzant, and they wanted a private web development instructor. They wanted between 10 and 20 hours a week of personal instruction, and were willing to pay $50 an hour. So we set up daily Skype classes. As a senior in college, you can only imagine how exciting it was to be making this amount of money. And it was a really interesting experience for me as a teacher because I was able to kind of customize what I was teaching around that one particular student, and also found that they had different motivations for wanting to learn from me as a web developer in New York. They also really wanted to practice their English. So that was another interesting factor on top of why they found me as a web development tutor. Some services that are frequently sold online that you've definitely heard about being sold online before are writing. A lot of folks will write for different publications, they'll write for blogs and get paid a little bit to write those pieces. Executive assistantship has also been something that I've noticed growing more, at least within my Twitter sphere, particularly of entrepreneurs. A lot of folks that are working as the CEOs of startups that are very busy, a lot of folks that are working in venture capital are starting to look for executive assistants. So people that are just able to kind of jump in and get things done. It's really awesome if you can find one of these people to partner with. You can learn a lot also as an executive assistant, and you can get paid pretty well. Bookkeeping is another thing that you can offer as a service online. A lot of companies, particularly smaller companies, won't have a full-time bookkeeper, but it's something that needs to be done for them. So bookkeeping, if you're great at a little bit of math and just keeping track of receipts and everything, bookkeeping could also be a really lucrative service you can offer online. Coaching is another service that I've found a lot more people trying to build businesses around. If there's just something that you're really great at, be it exercising or be it business development, productivity, coaching is something that could be really valuable to a lot of people. It's also an interesting one because you never know who in your network is going to need to reach out to you. I personally have recently hired a career development coach who specializes in women in tech. And that's been really awesome for me. And it's also been really amazing to see her grow her business as a woman in career coaching. Tutoring is also a very common service that's sold online. And tutoring is great because you can teach so many different things. Web development in particular was something that I really am motivated by getting more people involved in tech and getting more people feeling comfortable with tech. So for me, tutoring in tech is a treat. It's what I wake up every day to do. I have recently moved my career in that direction, becoming a curriculum engineer and teaching people about databases on a daily basis. Another service that I found recently has become really interesting is research. I have a friend who started posting online about different snacks that she likes, different snacks from different countries, snacks that she liked the packaging on, snacks that she thought were really unique. And she ended up starting a newsletter about the different snacks that she was trying, the different packaging methods that she saw. And now she's getting hired by companies like Nabisco, like Starbucks, to do research on the landscape of these different of this industry. And she's getting paid a lot of money to do that kind of research. So that's kind of a really interesting service, because if you have a particular interest, there's probably a need for research in that field. It's something that a lot of large companies will like to hire out for anyways, because they get into a kind of can't see the forest through the trees mode of operation. And so if they can hire an external contractor who isn't part of their realm, who can kind of see the whole thing, then that's really valuable research to them. So if you can get really good at writing reports and doing this sort of research, this can be a very fun way to work with really interesting companies. So the question to determine what kind of services might be great for you to sell online: do you have a unique experience from your job that you could share? I've had some really interesting, unique jobs in the last year, not just in web development, but also in community management. Some of the volunteer experience that I have ranges from working with Canada goose populations to volunteering to run hackathons. So a lot of that unique experience has translated for me into opportunities to sell those services and sell that knowledge online to other people who just find that they really need that information. So in determining the services that you could offer, you really want to start to think outside of just what your core career is. A statistic that I will sometimes throw at some of my students at PACE is that in the US, 26% of people with a college degree do something that's related to that college degree. So that means that there are 74% of people with college degrees are doing a job that's not at all related to what they studied in college. And the same thing kind of can be translated to you getting stuck in the mindset of what you've been doing for your whole career. But you probably have a lot of other skills and a lot of other knowledge that you just aren't thinking about yet. So this is one of my favorite brainstorming exercises. The first time I did this was the day that I was leaving my full-time job to start my own business for the first time, and I was really scared. I was sitting with one of my favorite coworkers, and I was crying because I was just really, really scared about what I was doing, and I knew it was the right choice, but it's very scary to kind of have your regular income in a compromised situation. So this exercise helped me realize that I'm going to be okay no matter what, whether it's as a programmer, whether it's as something else. So we're going to do a brainstorming activity for 5 minutes. I actually pulled up from the last time I did this so that I could kind of see like how different my brainstorming results are going to be this time, but I'm just going to set this 5-minute timer, and I'm going to pull open a Google Doc, and I'm just going to start writing down stream of consciousness, different services and things that I could sell online and make money. So I'll start that now and open up a new tab. And I'm just going to start brainstorming different services that I can offer online.
Julie, I know you'll jump into this as well, but I guess the thing that I love about when you do this is that you're focusing on both kind of things that are kind of so central to you as in your career, but also kind of creative activities that you've tackled historically and enjoy and have found kind of opportunities through. So it's fun to see the process.
A lot of these things are stuff that I really like doing in my free time. So I started thinking a lot about my favorite hobbies today, definitely. I really love running. I really love cooking. Some new hobbies even that I've built over the last year are bird watching. And so it's really fun for me to be able to think about those things as ways that I could possibly make money, because in a lot of cases that means that I'll be meeting other people who are really interested in those topics. Over the course of the last year, I've started teaching a lot more classes at my makerspace, and a makerspace is a place for people who are just interested in making all sorts of things. So a place for engineers, a place for woodworkers, a place for metal workers, people who are interested in making digital products, people who are interested in sewing. And I'm very fortunate to have a really awesome makerspace close by. I got involved with their community, and I started teaching classes on creative coding and classes on design thinking, some classes on building virtual reality music videos. So it's been really fun, and it's been a really creative endeavor for me. So these are all services and things that I can start to think about selling online. You know, should I ever be looking for a new service that I can start to sell online? Another thing that I started thinking about towards the end there is how popular curated services are becoming. That's another something that I would have definitely added to this slide here, services that are frequently sold online, because that definitely, like, curated services are becoming really, really popular. So I hope that some of you had kind of a little bit of a breakthrough in thinking about things that you could possibly sell online, and thinking about different services that you might be interested in selling, either as a side hustle or as part of your business. things that you could consult on, things that you just love to research anyways, or things that you really know a lot about, like maybe you're a cheese connoisseur or a wine connoisseur, and you would love to talk to people and put together lists of recommendations for them. Another thing to think about with deciding what kind of services to sell online are asynchronous versus synchronous services. So you've probably found a lot of people are now able to have remote jobs, which is awesome. And a lot of these remote jobs might just be part-time things. In order to do something like data entry, you might not need to go into an office anymore. That might be something that you can just do on your computer at home at night if you want to make a little bit of extra money. So some of those jobs would be asynchronous. It doesn't really matter what time you're doing them. It's something that you can collect some information about and then you can give it back to your customer. Or synchronous. So is it a service that you deliver at a specific time? You can have a video call with somebody to deliver that service. So those are just some things to think about in managing your own time. And then in a 5-step process to kind of figure out, all right, I've decided on what service I'm going to be administering here. So how can we serve that skill digitally? We've definitely started thinking about things a lot more in terms of what work can we be doing from home rather than going into the office to do. So if you're thinking about how do you start your own business with just the bare minimum, what you need to do is you need to find your customers, deliver your service, and collect payment just to test out your ideas. So always be testing your concept first. Just try to get that first paying customer before you go all in on registering your company. Make sure that there's a market for it. Not all things will be a hit. Not a problem. Try something else. So I do want to call out one particular tool that I like to use to build landing pages. A landing page is just a place that you can point to online for whatever service that you're going to provide. It can provide a little bit more information about the service, tell people why you are an authority to be providing that service, and give people a sense of what rates you're charging. And if you have any testimonials or anything like that, a landing page is just a great way to collect all of that information and be able to present it quickly to people. So the tool that I use to build those landing pages, even as a web developer, there's no way that I could possibly do this better on my own than this one website Card does. So I love Card because it starts with all of these really nice, right off the bat, demos that you can use. I personally do pay for the pro version of this. This is how much I just love this product. I'm not sponsored by Card at all. I just really like it. But you can see the demo of these websites. They're really nice, really modern. So you can put in all of your information there and your services. And they just are super nice and just so easy to get started with. So Card is definitely a website that I recommend. My favorite website builder for single page websites. The next thing is finding your customers. So you always hear the suggestion of like really finding your niche, of really niching down to find customers and finding online communities of those people. And that's really good advice. So you'll find all of these different online communities in places like Twitter, in places like Reddit, maybe even Facebook groups. And you'll find these really specific groups of people. A really specific group of people that I found that I'm starting to learn how to do digitizing images for embroidery. I recently got a computerized embroidery machine. There's another side hustle. But people will also pay you to digitize their images so that they can do their embroidery themselves on their own machines. So a lot of the designs that I like to do are kind of like subversive patches and like they look very florally and they look almost grandma-y, but they like say something inappropriate. And there's literally a Facebook group for that, for people that are just really into that. So it's these really specific niches. The same thing as people who are really interested in snacks that have holographic packaging. I kid you not, that's exactly what my friend Andrea built her snack research business on. So finding those customers in those very niche places, and you can find them in Facebook groups, in subreddits, and in on Twitter are, I think, the best places to start to find those people. If you're looking for people to work with locally, also, Facebook is a great place to start there, because a lot of towns and a lot of neighborhoods will have Facebook groups, so you can reach out to your neighbors kind of directly there. I've gotten an awful lot of commissions on custom woodworking projects and custom laser engraving projects through those kind of Facebook groups. Next, you're going to want to deliver your service. So if it is something that you're going to just be teaching something, if you're going to be working with somebody and just kind of getting to know them, then you can usually just use Zoom or Google Hangouts to deliver your service. Whatever technology your customer is most comfortable with. So that's something that's just pretty simple to get set up. And then to collect payment. So you can use any number of different payment collection methods that you're most comfortable with, but I found that PayPal is pretty reliable, and I haven't had any issues with it. Venmo also is a good option in this case. But you know, your idea, there might be really specific tools that can help you out. So your goal should always be to think of what's the fewest number of tools that you can use. You probably don't need a whole custom web application built. You probably don't need to hire a web developer to build out your website. You can probably use more simple social media pages, and you can probably use website builders. Your website's not going to be the biggest thing for your marketing anyways. So think about how you're going to deliver whatever services you're going to deliver. It could just be you're going to call somebody on the phone to deliver your service. It could be via a video call. It could be that you are delivering written service. So in that case, an email or a Google Doc. Doxy.me is another delivery tool that a lot of licensed clinical social workers have been using, and a lot of therapists and doctors have been using it because it's HIPAA compliant. So if you need special considerations like that, at this point, there's probably a tool for it, which is amazing. Then you want to think about what tools you're going to use for marketing. Social media ads are great because you can get into really specific niches. If you want to pay for ads on Facebook, you can get into really specific niches. Facebook really does have a lot of that data on people. And I've got to admit that even as somebody who really values my privacy, I click on an awful lot of social media ads. And I do find that the targeted ads are really specific and really helpful to me. So Facebook is kind of a good place to start with doing social media ad campaigns, because you can just say, hey, I want to spend $20 on ads, target these people, and when the money runs out, then we run out, and that's okay. Craigslist is also a great place that you can do marketing for free. A lot of folks are still looking at Craigslist locally. They're looking for services like movers or services like dog walkers. Craigslist is definitely still a place that people are active. Facebook Marketplace as well is a place that a lot of people are still active. If you're somebody who's interested in getting into flipping like antiques or collectibles, Facebook Marketplace is really a great place for that. If you're somebody who is interested in vintage clothes, also Facebook Marketplace and Instagram are great platforms to use for marketing and finding your customers. So finding those online communities where your potential customers hang out is really the most critical thing that you can do to gain customers for the service that you're offering online. Finding those online communities does take a lot of time sometimes, but if you start to search around for those people on Twitter, you can search by hashtags. You can just kind of start Googling different terms that are relevant to the online community that that you're interested in targeting, and then going into those communities and building genuine relationships with people. Online communities don't like marketers. They don't like people who are coming in just to sell their products. So it's really important to be able to go into those online communities and form genuine relationships, find out exactly what those pain points that people are facing in those communities, and find a way to explain how you can help them. I personally find a lot of those online communities on Twitter, but a lot of my interests are kind of centered around, you know, young people in entrepreneurship and people who are starting businesses. So I found that a lot of my friends are also building businesses for those same people. So it's super interesting to kind of see makers building for makers. And friends and family also are really important resources for finding new customers. It's worth just posting on Facebook about what you're interested in helping people with. Your friends and family might know somebody who needs exactly the service that you're offering, and your friends and family probably know what your skill set is, and they know how awesome you are at that thing that you're trying to do. For example, if I did want to start doing bird watching trips, you know, my friends and family know that I love birding and that I'm pretty good at it. I'll know where to find the birds. So I know that my friends and family would definitely recommend my bird watching services to any of their friends and family that mention that they're interested in birds. That's something that just kind of like comes up in conversation. So it's important that my friends and family know what I'm trying to do. For payment, you want to be careful about this, because once your consulting service and the service that you're selling online starts to make money, of course you want to be mindful of taxes. To just get started and get that first person paying for your service, PayPal is a good option. If you want to integrate it into a website, Stripe is there, Venmo and Square, and then there's any like delivery system that you might be using if you're selling online courses or something like that. They might have a payment system that's built right into it. For marketing your service, again, you want to think small first. So something that's nice about selling services is that you don't need a whole ton of customers, because selling services is time consuming, and usually the payment is kind of directly correlated to how much time you're spending on it. So selling services is a great way to get started with online entrepreneurship, because you can start making money immediately. And that's why even a lot of companies that are trying to sell software as a service will start by bootstrapping, by just selling that service. For example, in college, I started a company teaching middle schoolers how to code, and I wanted to deliver that service as a piece of software that could be used in schools all around the country. But what I did to kind of get that started up off the ground was I went to schools and I said, hey, I'll teach your middle schoolers coding, and all of the schools said awesome and paid me $50 an hour to do that. So services are great because you can just start making money right away, but that's because they're so time consuming. So again, places to kind of start with would be with those friends and family, would be with those online communities that you found. Something else that I found is actually pretty useful, and maybe a little bit not totally selling this online, but to put physical flyers in your community. If you live in a small town, or even if you live in an apartment building that has a corkboard somewhere, putting up physical flyers like doesn't hurt, just to get your name out. Something else that I found is that if you are open to having international clients, if you post in the online communities that are based in the major cities there, you'll have better luck at finding those international clients. So if you're interested in reaching a global community, then definitely consider those local communities that exist in those cities that you're looking to target potential customers in. Another thing that's really important if you're offering consulting services are building your brand as an expert. You want to give people that reason to hire you. So what you should be doing is always looking for opportunities to speak about your topic, to write for not necessarily well-known publications, but more known publications than what you have, and also to just share what you do in a really personable way online. Being a part of these online communities is really important, and a lot of these online communities, simply by joining them and by participating in discussion, you can establish yourself as an expert on these things. Something that I've done in the past years, I was running challenges for a platform called MakerPad. They focus on no-code technologies and on helping entrepreneurs develop their products without having to write any code, with using these different tools that focus on being able to create things without having to write code, and are more design-based building tools. And I'd loosely used a couple of those tools before, but I got involved in the community and I was able to answer some questions. I started talking to more folks, and I was kind of able to establish myself as a no-code expert. I taught just one workshop at my makerspace on no-code tools, and I shared those slides. And by sharing those slides on Twitter, I was able to find a lot more folks who wanted to learn about no code, who might as well learn from me. Sometimes it's really hard to decide that you're the expert now and that you know enough to be able to share your knowledge. And something that I always remember my high school drama club teacher saying was, you don't have to be confident, just act like it. And that has helped me an awful lot with kind of having the confidence to build my brand as an expert, because a lot of times, yeah, I don't think that I know enough to be the authority on something, but I sure can act like it. So if that helps you at all, you don't have to be confident, just act like it, but focus on building your brand as an expert. Have people in your community recognize that you're really interested in this thing. And a lot of times, all you have to do is just say, hey, I'm really interested in this thing. I've been doing X, Y, and Z work in relation to it. And I'd be happy to help you with exactly what services I'm offering. And then the most important step, of course, is to follow through. Follow through on whatever service it is that you're offering. Client relationship management is so important with services. It's really important to make sure that your clients feel comfortable with the work that you're doing, that they see the work that you're doing, and that you're very transparent about expectations. So this can be really difficult, the client relationship management. Sometimes this involves just making sure that you're finding clients that you work with really well. And it takes a lot of people skills. It's definitely an extra layer on top of whatever service it is that you're offering, to be able to manage those relationships well. Once you start to form those business relationships, having a contract is a really good idea. Even if you have established trust in your relationship, having a contract is always a good idea. And always making sure to be really detailed in exactly the work that you've done when you're sending invoice statements. Something that I used to really hate when I worked at a web development agency was always having to write down, like down to spend 5 minutes replying to this email, just having to track minute by minute. But it was really helpful for our clients and stakeholders to be able to see exactly how the time and money was spent. So just being really detailed also helps to manage expectations going forward in the future. And for scheduling, sometimes that can be a really difficult part. in administering services, but I found that for one-on-one meetings, Calendly has been very helpful, and that if I just offer a bunch of opportunities for somebody to grab some time on my calendar, they'll grab some time on my calendar. And then I just get a notification when the meeting's coming up. For larger groups, for organizing like a cooking class or something like that, Doodle is really helpful. And so you can offer a bunch of potential times, and then you can select whatever time the most people have said is the best for them. So, and then of course, just making sure that your service is really high quality. Take a lot of pride in your work. When you're offering a consulting service or freelancing, there's really no one that you can hide behind. There's no manager that's screwing up. It's really on you to do that project management and to make sure that you're building your own brand in a really great way. So I've got, it looks like 14 minutes for some questions. So I'm going to open up the question tab here. But before I jump into questions, I do just want to say thank you again to the SBDC and to Andrew Flam for having me here to give these lectures. And next Wednesday at the same time, I'll be talking about selling digital products online, selling things like online courses, digital assets like images for video games, music for video games, selling writing online, and selling like video content online. And then I'll also be talking in 2 weeks from now about selling physical products online, which is really exciting for me because I'll just go through the process of setting up a store and show you how to start selling things like t-shirts. So I'll open up the questions here.
Julie, thank you so much. I will recommend popping out the questions box and making it bigger.
All right.
It's going to be the arrow on the next to the Xbox.
Yep.
You got it?
Thanks very much, Julie, as well. I did have a couple things. I thought that the remarks were spot on, and a couple things I wanted to kind of highlight in terms of best practices. I think that Julie sort of kind of highlighted so well, and I think can also be kind of talking points for you, our participants today if you're not working with an SBDC advisor already. Sort of the finding customers aspect and kind of knowing what their pain points are, I think is kind of so integral, I think, for business owners, not just for folks who are looking to launch a business, but also, if you have a business, what does your product or service do, and what reasons does a customer have for kind of either choosing you over others? So being able to hone in on that and explain that well, both digitally as Julie's going through, as well as through other efforts, whether it's to stakeholders, to investors, to lenders, I think is so important. And I think it's something that our advisors do a lot of with our clients. Formalizing your business, I think Julie was so spot on. I think in terms of thinking about kind of building your customer base and making sure before you go through a lot of efforts, but understanding kind of you want to make sure that there's a structure in place behind you, that there are controls in place, and that legally that you're in a position where you're not kind of subjecting yourself personally to kind of undue exposure. I think is important to build and grow. So having a formal structure in place is certainly important. And the third thing, in terms of contracts and invoices, I love what Julie kind of went through there. I think trust is one thing, but you want to make sure you have a piece of paper to kind of point to in terms of don't do this work with the expectation that you're not going to get paid for it. Otherwise, it's a hobby. If this is a business, make sure you have some sort of contract in place you're going to be able to tie to. And the not fun part about it is chasing people down for those, for your payments. I mean, make sure you have a formal invoicing structure, making sure you can have that in place. So I think Julie kind of really identified some great resource to be able to help accomplish these. And I think, some of these topics track forward, you want to kind of talk with an advisor about how to incorporate that into how you operate your business, and we'd be delighted to. So again, thanks, Julie, and I'll pop out again. I really appreciate your remarks.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, it's really the services that are offered for free through the SBDC it's really incredible to be able to have help just to figure out some of the paperwork and logistics behind starting a business generally. It can truly be a headache. And it's just awesome to have a little bit of help and just also a little bit of encouragement. So I'm really excited about the services that are offered here. So first question that I'm seeing come up is, can you speak to influencers and or online advertising? What is the process and how does this play into selling items and services online, and how do you get paid? So if you're interested in hiring an online influencer or giving your product to them, so the process is really just to go find the people that have the audience that you're looking to target, and send them a message. Just kind of start talking with them directly. Sometimes, they'll tell you exactly what their rates are. Some of their rates are absolutely ridiculous. Sometimes you want to just make sure that you can niche down to a really small group. You don't necessarily want to target those people with 1 million followers, but they're not as engaged. You might want to target somebody who has 5,000 followers, but all 5,000 of those followers are really interested in that thing that you're offering. So if you're interested in contacting influencers in that way, then that's how you would go about it. Just start sending DMs on the social media platforms where they're popular. If you are interested in becoming somebody who does influencing, then the most important thing, of course, is just to have a really active community. You can think about it in terms of your possible brand, but what I recommend for people who are interested in becoming influencers are to build a community around the things that you're most interested in, so that people will know to reach out directly to you for that specific thing because you have the most active community, you have the most connections.
Julie, just a heads up, I did reply to all of the folks who did request a copy of this presentation. There was many folks that wanted to double check that they were getting the recording, and you will get the recording from today, as well as Julie's slide deck and a follow-up email from GoToWebinar.
Awesome. Ooh, this is a really good question from Sabrina. How do you test out the pricing of the services you sell online? It can be really difficult to figure out pricing. I recommend first just finding other people that are offering those services, and even if you don't necessarily have the same credentials as them yet, just try to offer at those prices. So a lot of times people will still reach out to you about the service and then try to negotiate with you on the price, but ultimately, start with what you're comfortable with. Like what do you need to make to feel comfortable? Start there, and then you can kind of start to bump up that price as you build up your reputation for selling those services. So if you're interested in selling something like embroidery digitizing service, or like a web development consulting rate, then you just kind of look at what are people expecting to be paid there. Look at people who are offering those services from the same country and area as you, because in a lot of cases you'll find people like on Fiverr, for example, selling those services for way cheaper than you could possibly sell them for. Ignore that and just start with what you are comfortable with, and then you can negotiate with folks from there. The HIPAA compliant one is doxy.me. It's also just got really good user experience. I know that a lot of doctors use it, and they use it with a lot of older folks too. Any advice for selling services like tarot readings online? I'm not sure if I need a website or just use social media. I would personally just use social media for selling something like tarot readings online. I actually do have one friend who does tarot readings online. She uses Etsy, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend for tarot services, but also just on Facebook. And sometimes she'll do, you know, like tarot reading parties. And so it'll just be her friends from her social media. So it's also a good way to kind of build up that online community around the thing that you're selling in. So for selling services like tarot readings, or for things that could interest a big group of people, those little online parties, or things like just opening up a Google Hangouts, is a great opportunity there to kind of get a bunch of people like around your brand. Also, you really, for like tarot readings in particular, I feel like you really want to kind of build up an interesting personal brand around that. So, you know, think about whatever graphics you're sharing with your posts online about doing tarot readings, or particularly if you could get like somebody to like talk about the tarot reading that you did, or why it was meaningful to them. I know a lot of folks might not want to share that information, but particularly for something like tarot reading, where there's a little bit of skepticism around the service in general, things like customer reviews are awesome. Let's see. Thank you all so much for all the positive comments. I'm really glad that this was a useful webinar for all of you. So the best way to get in touch with me, when these SBDC sends out the recording, I'll have them definitely share my email as well. So you can just reach out to me at my email. So that would be a good time to talk about just any services that you're interested in selling, for sure. What's your view on using short YouTube videos as a way of getting people interested in your services? Awesome, awesome, awesome. Definitely, if you can do that, if you can create engaging video content, 100% do it. Video content is being consumed so much more than it used to be, even, and particularly young people. Like, I taught middle school and high schoolers over the summer at the Makerspace, and YouTube videos was like the only way to get through to them. They're addicted to it. They're always on YouTube, and it's a great way to convey, you know, the pieces of knowledge that you have that you're willing to share, for sure. Especially, you say you teach public speaking and interview prep to professionals. Absolutely. That's a great way to start building your brand. Short YouTube videos is awesome. Have you heard of and/or do you use Alignable? I've never used Alignable, but I will definitely look that up. There's another question I just saw about, would you suggest doing your own bookkeeping when starting off selling your services online? Or are there any particular software programs you can recommend to keep track of your finances? I would recommend just doing your own bookkeeping if that's something that you're comfortable doing. I know some people who are just like truly atrocious at math and keeping track of stuff, of keeping track of different interaction or transactions. Maybe those people want to use a bookkeeping tool or a bookkeeping assistant. For particular software programs to keep track of your finances, QuickBooks is a little bit heavy-handed in most cases, but it's also the best. But I would honestly recommend just using like a Google spreadsheet for the first probably $1,000 a month or something like that. And then once you start making enough money to be able to lose track of money, then QuickBooks is a good option there. How do you get feedback from customers on what you can do to improve your services? And are there any programs you can use to get customer feedback? I just ask. In a lot of cases, folks always want to get more value from the thing that they're paying for. So if folks think that they can get more value by just telling you how you can improve your services, they'll certainly tell you. And a lot of people are, particularly in the remote communication age, when we have less physical cues to go off of, people are getting a lot better at giving constructive feedback in more gentle ways. Sometimes anonymous surveys are a good tool there. So I would just use Google Forms. for an anonymous survey, and any programs to get customer feedback. If you offer an awesome customer service, then you'll get great reviews. If you offer a terrible one, you'll also definitely get that customer feedback for sure. So a lot of platforms will just kind of have that review built in. But in a lot of cases, yeah, just asking is kind of an easy way to get that feedback from customers. Thank you for that question. From Thomas, should I create separate websites for each service? It depends on how they're related to each other. If they're not related at all, and you can't figure out how to build your personal brand around all of those services all at the same time, then yes, create separate websites for each service. But if there's a way to kind of build all of them into your personal brand, then creating one website is probably fine. Thank you all for attending, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
Again, Julie, really appreciate your comments, and obviously look forward to the sessions in the weeks to come. And Renee, thanks so much for everything you do to help us with our training efforts. I'll make one kind of final pitch for services for our center. I think Julie was sort of spot on in terms of kind of being able to, for your online presence and being able to look for website development. So we do have a team of business advisors that works at the SBDC of helping with website development. So if you're interested in getting yourself a website presence, I certainly encourage you to take advantage of our services that are available, again, at no cost. Julie, again, thanks so much. It was awesome, and look forward to reconnecting for next week.